You think your characters' names are all great, but you might actually be committing one of the 7 deadly sins of character names without even knowing it. And it's making people hate your script and your story, even if the story seems to be clicking on all cylinders. So today we're going to expose these capital vices so your character names complement your story instead of detracting from it. Because we don't want any more Mutt Williams or Cole Trickles or Renesmee Collins, I don't even know how to say that. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please be sure to like, subscribe if you haven't done that. Drop a comment below. Interactions really help other people find the channel. I really appreciate it. There's also some links below. Be sure to check those out. Let's jump in. Talk to any writer and they will tell you that character names are important. I think we can all agree that that is true. We spend lots of time trying to figure out the best name. And sometimes we get a little stuck, right? Like, I just need some help, or I'm not sure I'm thinking about the right thing. So if you need some help or some tips for finding good names, I did make a video about that. You can click this link here and watch it. However, there's also some other things that you do not want to do. So 7 things you don't want to do with names. So here we go. Number 1, having multiple names that begin with the same letter. Richard, Roger, Ringo, Rebecca, Randolph. I mean, it just starts to get confusing. And you've probably read your fair share of stories where characters had similar sounding names, or names especially that started with the same first letter, and it's hard to keep track of them, especially if they keep coming back up in the story. It's hard to track with who is who and to keep everybody straight. And in screenwriting, it can actually kind of stink even more because you're using screenwriting software. And the software tries to pre-populate things. You type 1 letter, it tries to pre-populate. But if you got 6 names that all start with the same letter, now it's slowing you down, right? It's just gonna take a long time. So you kind of want to avoid it just for that reason. It just slows you down. But the real reason why this is bad is because you don't want to confuse the reader. You want to help them keep track of the characters by giving characters names distinctive from one another. And that means the same first letter of names, okay, that's not distinctive. If you have a reason, and you might, okay, because there's always exceptions. If you have a reason for characters to be named all a specific way, for example, siblings. We all know families where siblings have the same first letter of their name, or their names kind of sound a little similar, right? I get it. You do want to do your best to make sure the names sound different, though. So let's just use our example. We've got all R's, right? But maybe we have Rick and Ringo and Randolph. Okay, those at least sound a little different. We can kind of get away with that. There's different syllables, different consonant sounds. You know, Rick's kind of hard, Ringo's a little softer, Randolph's a little easier. So, you know, maybe that might help people track. The main thing, though, is you really want to try to avoid this if you can. It just helps the reader track with what's going on. It helps them not be confused. So if you have multiple characters with all the same name, especially if they're a main or supporting character, yeah, you got to change that. Sin number 2 of character names is lack of diversity in your names. Now, no, this is not me trying to be woke or anything like that, because I know people have different opinions on that, okay? This is just simply reality. Okay, if you look at the world around you, it doesn't matter where you are, okay? I don't care where you are. I don't care where you live. There are people around you from different heritages, different cultures, different religious beliefs, different moral beliefs, and any story you tell is going to have characters like that interacting with others who are not like them. As a result, the names should reflect this diversity of life. Plus, it honors and recognizes others who are different from you. You know, one of the worst things you can do is name all of your characters as if they are just like you. I mean, if you're going to be successful at writing, you're going to have to learn to understand and appreciate other points of view that are not your own. Okay, so start with a name, one that isn't like yours. Make sure the names in your story, the characters in your story, reflect the actual diversity of life that we experience every day. And if you can do that, it makes your stories richer. It makes them more full. So make sure your names and your characters are diverse. Character sin number 3, names that are hard to pronounce. Now, you may have the perfect name, and let's say you have this name. It's spelled Sakina. What this name means is beloved friend, or a God-inspired peace of mind. I mean, this is the perfect name for a BFF of your main character, right? But how do you pronounce it? Some of you may know right away. You might be familiar with this name. Others are not. I mean, do you say Sakina, Sakina, Sakine? How do you pronounce it? And before you think I'm about to say, don't use names like this, I'm not, okay? Far from it. But you need to help the reader because you aren't there to pronounce it for them. One way to help is through the spelling. So if you find a name you like, say it out loud how you want it said, and then write out that name phonetically. So if you think Sakina should be pronounced Sakina, then spell the name Sakeena. Okay, just give a little help. All right. Otherwise, the reader starts to be frustrated with the name. They're like, I don't know if I'm saying this right. And it pulls them out of the story. Plus, if they decide to talk to anyone else about the script and this person, Sakina, is a important character in your story and they pronounce it Sakina and they're talking to somebody else who pronounced it Sakina and they're like, it takes them a minute to figure out that they're actually talking about the same person. Okay, you don't want them to have that conversation. You want to be talking about how great your story is, not how to pronounce the name of a character in your story. They're not talking about your story anymore, and that's not what you want. As a little caveat, try to avoid some of the crazy spellings of common names. If it's a common name, just spell it a common way. If it's not a common name, spell it however you want, right? Spell it phonetically so people can pronounce it. But if it's not a common name, spell it however you want. If it is a common name, all right, just try to spell it in the common way. Don't worry about all the crazy misspellings. The only people who are going to notice that are the readers of your script. People who are watching your film, if it gets made, are never going to know what the spelling is. So just kind of stick to common spelling. It just makes it easier on the reader. Again, keep in mind, we want to keep it easy for the reader. We want the reader to be able to track. We want them to be able to differentiate between people. We want them to be able to easily pronounce names. Hopefully you're seeing a trend. Deadly sin number 4 for character names is giving female characters male names. Just please stop. This started to become a little more predominant, and it was a reaction to just trying to make female characters feel stronger. We want to have strong female characters, so let's give them male names. But you can have a strong female character without naming them Sam. I don't want to see any more Sams, right? Now, full disclosure, I have to admit, I have to confess, I've done this. One of my stories had a female character named Kyle. Yeah, her first name. Okay, so I'm guilty just like everybody else. So let's agree to stop. That was a while ago, but let's just stop. If you have a strong female character, give her a strong female name. There are a lot for you to choose from. Again, the problem comes in because it might be confusing to the reader, right? They're reading a story and there's a bunch of guys and then there's a woman in the midst named Kyle, which is a guy's name. And the reader might be going, wait, which one of these is the woman, right? So they're going to forget that. So yeah, not one of my finer moments, right? So avoid this. Don't name female characters male names. Every once in a while, yeah, you might have a nickname. There might be a story reason why that's there, but for the most part, give your female characters strong female names, just like you're trying to give your male characters strong male names. Sin number 5, the one joke name. Okay, so you give a character a funny name or an awkward name just to play a joke one time. I mean, why? Right? Find a better joke. And if the joke's about a name that you think is the perfect name, but your script sells and some producer or director or actor down the line just doesn't think the joke is funny, okay, now you're probably going to have to change the name anyway, which isn't really hard to do technically. But if you're choosing names for the right reasons, okay, now it starts to become a problem because you chose a name and then you're like, ooh, but this is a little great twist and I can have a one joke moment. No, if it's just for a joke, that's the wrong reason, right? That's a problem. And now everyone is going to start having opinions about your new name. And then you're going to have sending a list, okay, here's a list of names that I think this character, and people are going to bicker and fight about it. It's a name. You figure out a name and they're having all these discussions and all this hand-wringing because you decided to include a one joke name. Okay, just stop. And yes, I have had these discussions and they suck. So just avoid them, okay? Learn from me, learn from my experience. Don't do it. And then, yeah, remember Kyle? I mean, her introduction was a joke on her name. So bad. Deadly sin number 6, a lack of cleverness in the name. I mean, there are lots of iterations of this one, this spin on being clever. Either the name is too on the nose with the theme or the character trait, or maybe the name has zero association with the theme or the key character trait. So you kind of either go one way or the other, right? Like it's too on the nose, it just reflects it, or it's not even related and we're like, why, what is going on here? It's like the person didn't even care to create a name that like helped. Other related things with the cleverness of a name is the name starts to become a derivative or a play on words with the title of the film, and that just comes off as cheesy. Either the name comes off as cheesy or the title of the film comes off as cheesy. You don't really want either of those. Or the name just plays too much on mythology, right? You like look up like, oh, I've got these twin characters. Let's see, what are famous twins? Ooh, I can name one Castor and one Pollux. That's famous. Like, can we please have another story with twins named Castor and Pollux? And yes, I said that, and yes, I still really like Face Off, so characters with Castor and Pollux, so you can still have it can still work, but okay, that's John Woo and you're not John Woo. The thing is, a good name hints at what is there without being too obvious, right? Like, you have this, we have got this great set of stories Keanu Reeves has been in recently. John Wick, he's like a ghost. Baba Yaga, right? He's not quite there, he's a wick. Right? So it's close, but it's not too on the nose, right? So that feels better. And yes, you can have names that are on the nose, but it depends on the story you're telling. I mean, maybe you want the names intentionally to be fun and over the top. I mean, if you're making a movie with a bunch of 80s action stars, then yes, you want a bad guy named Pain. You want Jean-Claude Van Damme in another movie playing a villain, and his name is Jean Villain, right? And you want someone who likes guns named Gunner, and someone who uses tools to be named Tool, okay? But if you're not writing that kind of story, okay, then just don't, right? Just don't. You got to find a way to be a little more clever with your names. You got to find ways to be a little more subtle with your names. Before I get to the last deadly sin of character names, if you're finding value, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. If you know of a bad character name, drop it below. There are plenty to choose from, so find one, drop it below. It just helps other people find the channel when people are interacting with the videos, so I really do appreciate it. The last deadly sin is that you didn't run the name through the junior high test. Now, if you're not familiar, because I know some of you watching aren't familiar with the American school system, junior high is the time in school where students are roughly 11 to 13 years old. So for us, that's grades 6 through 8. In short, that time of life, it just kind of sucks, right? I mean, we've all experienced it, we all lived it. And I know of no writer who grew up in America who actually liked junior high, because for us who are nerds or bookish or, smart in any way, okay, junior high should be forgotten and skipped, and we've tried to forget it. Kids are ruthless when it comes to picking on each other, especially using names. I mean, what nicknames did they give you? Ones that you hated. Okay, now put your character through that same test. Put your character through the junior high nickname test. Bad character names slip through the cracks because they are just so easy to be made fun of, right? The character is a serious role, an important role, so why are you giving them a name of June Munch or I'm a Trip? Like, what are you doing? Like, do better. Find a way to kind of test and make sure that your character names hold up, because you don't want the audience picking on your character name after your story, because then it just kind of ruins it, right? Like, that's not what you wanted. You didn't want them talking about that. You want them talking about the themes of your story and the parts of your story that you felt were important, not about this bad name of a character. So pretend the character is a kid in junior high and make fun of their name before you put it in your script. Just try to make fun of it. And if you can't come up with a good nickname that's going to cause that character to just run away screaming and hiding and getting into a fetal position in the bathroom, okay, then you've probably got a good name. So make sure they pass the junior high test. Hopefully this has been helpful to you, at least help you think about character names a little different and some things to avoid. So you might have found some of those in stories you're writing. So just change them. You can change them now. It's easy to change them now. So change them now. Thank you again for watching. If you haven't yet, please be sure to like, subscribe, bell, all those things. Again, I really do appreciate it. When you go to tell a story, make sure you have good character names and tell a story that matters. See you later.